ancestral name is Nigilka, and my English name is Jessica Savoy, and I'm a Niska woman born and raised in unceded Coast Salish territories. Article 3 of UNDRIP states Indigenous peoples have the rights to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Translating this basic human right into the urban environment is a top priority for all urban Indigenous peoples and our representative organizations. The movement to reassert Indigenous self-determination is taking place around the world, while at the same time, Indigenous peoples are moving into cities in order to access economic opportunities. In Canada, there is a substantial risk that urban Indigenous peoples will be completely left out of self-government and self-determination processes because of the federal government's distinctions-based approach and the complex intergovernmental relations involved. Canada's youth policies must clearly reflect the rights and principles of UNDRIP, which is the most advanced and comprehensive declaration on the rights of Indigenous peoples. The former UN Special Rapporteur, James Anaya, described the importance of UNDRIP as, quote, an authoritative common understanding at the global level of the minimum content and the rights of Indigenous peoples upon a foundation of various sources of international human rights law. I, as an Indigenous youth, can say that the federal government right now, Canada, is failing our Indigenous youth. Addressing the questions and issues concerning the relationship between Canada and as a post-colonial society and pre-existing Indigenous societies lies at the core of Indigenous self-determination. For Indigenous youth, new ways of thinking are required that raise additional questions and dialogue about our political and cultural identities. This process is particularly well suited to Indigenous youth who are already sensitized to dominant colonial ideologies and wish to understand the history of colonization and assimilation. Young people want change, and we owe it to them to not only listen, but to also take concrete actions. We must continue to support them as they advocate for the changes they want to see and provide opportunities for them to have their voices heard. We call on the Permanent Forum and all organizations and governments to advance Indigenous youth through increased means of human, fiscal, and technological capacities, and to hold Canada accountable for their ongoing discrimination against Indigenous youth. Thank you.